Hey guys, Rob here with McDojoLife. In today's McDojo news, we're going to talk about how police finally solved a cold case murder of a martial arts instructor in Bridgeport. Let's check out the story. Police have arrested a suspect in the murder of a martial arts instructor who they said was killed while stopping a robbery in Bridgeport in 2021. The victim, 54-year-old Joselito Calderon of Bridgeport, was shot and killed at the Copa Bar and Restaurant in July of 2021, according to police. Officers responded to the intersection of Lexington and Harrell Avenues just before 1 a.m. the day of the homicide for a shot spotter activation and citizen reports of two parties shot inside the Copa restaurant. When officers arrived, they located the two parties suffering from gunshot wounds. The victims of the shooting were transported to St. Vincent's Medical Center. Calderon later died at the hospital, while the other victim, 30-year-old Neil Francisco, survived. During a news conference on Tuesday, police said Calderon was a hero. He was at the restaurant and bar with his wife when he was shot while stopping the robbery, and he saved lives, police said. "My world was gone in 2 seconds," Calderon's wife, Christina, said during the news conference about the arrest. She said she and her husband got married at the Copa Bar and Restaurant, and he gave the leftovers from their wedding meal to people who are homeless. They were married for 11 months when he was killed, Christina Calderon said. According to his obituary, Calderon was also a father and a martial arts instructor who owned Chin Hu Academy at Stratford. Police have arrested 38-year-old Victor Collin of Bridgeport and charged him with murder, accessory to murder, attempted robbery in the first degree, and criminal possession of a firearm. Collin's bond has been set to $2 million. He was arraigned on Monday, remains in custody, and is due in court August 11th, according to online court records. Police said several people were involved in the crime, and they expect to make more arrests. So before we unpack all this, I want to show the police press conference that actually details what the police had to do in order to make this arrest after years of this case being a cold case. So let's check out what they had to say, then let's unpack this.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming here today. We come here today to highlight and some of the efforts of the Detective Bureau in closing some of these cold cases, and also to bring a level of comfort to the families of our victim, Mr. Calderon, and also to talk about the arrest of Mr. Victor Collin. So I really want to highlight the hard work that the Detective Bureau has been doing, not only active cases, but cold cases. Oftentimes, cold cases, after several months or several years, families begin to feel like they're alone and no one is actually concerned about their loved one or actively working their case. But I just want to reassure the loved ones of family members of victims who were victims of homicide that our Detective Bureau continues to work. We continue to care about you. We continue to work the cases even when they go cold. And I think today's arrest is an example of that hard work. Since I've been chief, and for the last couple of years, we've been really dedicated to closing cold cases, so much so that we started a production where we call it Bridgeport Confidential. Although this case might not be an example of the results of that Bridgeport Confidential, it really goes to the hard work that the detectives put into this case and other cases. So I want to encourage anyone out there who is, if there's a current case or a cold case, if you have information, please contact the Bridgeport Police Department, the Detective Bureau. You can call our tips line at area code 203-576-TIPS to leave any information that you might have. So again, I'm going to bring up Detective Jeff Holt, who's going to talk about this case. He's going to talk about our victim. We're going to talk about our arrested suspect, who's responsible for this, and we're going to have the family come up and say a few words, and then I'll have a few closing words. So, Detective Holtz.
Thank you, Chief. My name is Detective Jeffrey Holtz. I'm with the Homicide Unit currently. I want to thank you all for coming here today. We really appreciate it. I want to point out a couple of people that are here. Captain John Cummings, who currently commands our Detective Bureau, one of my partners in the Homicide Unit, and actually my closest partner, Detective Thomas Harper. And I really want to point out retired Detective Martin Henyu, because Detective Henyu was the original investigator on this case. He retired a couple of years ago. But Detective Henyu and several other detectives who are retired and couldn't be here today they did the heavy lifting on this case. They really did an incredible amount of work, and that needs to be pointed out. And when Detective Henyu retired, the case was handed to me. I was, partly familiar with it, and myself and Detective Harper, we really brought it home. We got it across the finish line. Also want to point out that Assistant Chief Frank Capozzi is here. He wants to stay in the background, but he is currently the head of investigative services, and he's there in the blue shirt. Anytime the Bridgeport Police Department can announce an arrest in a cold case murder, it's a gratifying day. And today is one of those days. But it's also a bittersweet day because somebody lost their life in this case. And that person is Joselito Calderon. And these are press conferences we never really want to have. But hopefully by having this press conference today, it can really speak to Joselito's memory. I never met him, but I heard a lot about him through various people, and I think just the family and friends that came out today at a press conference like this, we don't always have it. And that, I think that kind of speaks to the kind of person that he was. So I'm going to get right to it. We are announcing the arrest of 38-year-old Victor Chapo Colon, date of birth 07/12/87, with the last known address of Washington Terrace in Bridgeport, for the murder of Joselito Calderon at the Copa Bar and Restaurant at 181 Lexington Avenue on July 11th, 2021. Victor Colon was charged with felony murder, accessory to murder, attempted robbery in the first degree, and criminal possession of a firearm. He was arrested and arraigned yesterday. His bond is $2 million. There's two things we want to get across in this press conference. Number one, this is still an open investigation. There were several people involved in this crime other than Victor Colon, and we have the names of those persons in the pipeline, and we anticipate further arrests. The other message that we want to send to the public is we know there are other families with open homicide cases, and we feel for those families, and we are continuing to look at those cases, and we will not stop looking at those cases. So with those people that are out there looking at this and saying, how about us, we are with you. And you can call us at any time. The chief gave out the tips line phone number, 203-576-TIPS. Call that number if you have any information on any homicide that is currently open. We want to hear from you. So we are with those families. I'm going to give you a rundown on this case. At approximately 12:55 a.m. on July 11th, Bridgeport Police patrol officers responded to a report of two persons shot at Lexington Avenue and Harrell Ave. Joselito Calderon was one of those persons who was found shot inside the Copa. He was transported to St. Vincent's Hospital, where he was later pronounced deceased due to several gunshot wounds. The other shooting victim survived his injuries. This investigation showed by the Bridgeport Police Homicide Unit that Victor Colon was one of several armed suspects who entered the Copa Bar and Restaurant shortly before 1 a.m. on July 11th, 2021. Their intent was to commit a robbery at that establishment. And Joselito Calderon was shot and killed while stopping that robbery. he saved lives. You know, when I was writing this press release up, and I thought about the wording, he didn't just attempt to stop the robbery, he stopped it. The bar was packed that night. Those suspects could have shot numerous people. He saved lives, and he was a hero. So I'm a pretty spiritual person. I think that I have the feeling that Joselito is here today with us, looking down and appreciating his family and friends and how they stayed with this case, and also the work of Detective Henyu and everybody else in the Bridgeport Police Department that had a hand in working this case. So 2 of his family members are here today. His daughter, Carole Calderon, is right there. She is there with her husband, who is a homicide detective with the New Haven Police Department. So they're part of the police family, which makes this case even more incredible to us because it affected the police family as well. And also with us is Christina Calderon, the wife of Joselito Calderon. And I have to mention this because it really touched me when I watched the video, and I think all of the officers and detectives that watched it. Christina was with her husband when he was shot and killed. She was sitting with him when those suspects entered the Copa. And I watched the video. Moments before they came in, she was holding hands with Joselito. And minutes later, he was shot and killed. She had a gun pointed at her by one of the suspects while these suspects were inside the bar. And, you know, in all these homicide cases, we think about the families. Some are more involved than others. Myself, Detective Harper, Detective Henyu, those of us that work homicides, we regularly get calls from families about their cases, and that's important to us. And Christina here was one of those I could rip off the month on my calendar by her phone call every month, calling about her husband's case. There's many family members that are big advocates for their families' cases, but really, you know, none bigger than Christina. And I hope that, you know, Christina and Carole can kind of bond on that in the future. But it was special in that regard when we were able to make this arrest. So Christina is here today. She would like to come up and say a few words about Joselito. And the other thing she told me today that I didn't even know, when she and Joselito were married, they were married at the Copa. So really just an incredible, heartbreaking story. Christina, can you come up?
Hi, my name is Christina Calderon. My name is Christina Calderon. I'm Joselito's wife. I was there the night that everything happened. Joselito was everything. He was not only my husband, he was my best friend. He was a father to my son. My son would always be late for school, and he would just bring him to school with a smile on his face, joking around about being how late he was. They did Taekwondo together. It was just like my world was gone in like 2 seconds. The last thing he said was, he gave me a kiss. He said, "Muñeca baby, I love you." And then that's when everything happened. They grabbed me. I couldn't do anything. I was just frozen. I was like, oh my God. I never in a million years thought that this was going to ever happen to me. Ever, 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 ever. In the short 11 months that we had married, we did a lot of things. We went to Ecuador. I met his family. I spent time with his kids. we went to stores. We went to a whole different places in 11 months. He has taught me a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure Detective Hanyu and Holtz was probably like, oh my God, this girl's always calling me. Oh my God, what a pain she is. But I was like always on them because I was like, something was telling me that I needed to be his voice. I needed to be like, hey, something's got to happen. Someone has to say something. Someone has to take responsibility, and there needs to be justice because he never hurt anybody. I was married at the Copa with him. At the end of it, everybody went home, and we had so much food left over. And he was like, babe, he was like, what are we going to do with this? And I said, I don't know. Probably like give it away or, eat it the next day or something. And he was like, no. He was like, I'm going to open the side door, and any homeless person that I see is going to come in, and we're just going to let them have the leftovers. And I was like, all right, let's do that. So we did that, and I don't know. I miss him so much. My son wanted to be here, but he's in North Carolina. He wanted to say his stuff, but he's not here. But he misses him like crazy.
Thank you. So just before we take a couple of questions, I just wanted to say again, as Detective Holtz indicated, there are other individuals that we are actively looking for in regards to this homicide. And again, if anyone has information, please contact the Bridgeport Police Department, and I'll give that number again. It's area code 203-576-TIPS. Those people need to be brought to justice. Grief is everlasting, but I hope today's arrest and future arrests will bring some level of comfort to Mr. Calderon's family. And I just wanted to say again, this is another act of senseless violence, gun violence that's taken place in the city of Bridgeport, the state of Connecticut, in our country. And it just made me think about last night in New York City, where we had a senseless act of gun violence, where a New York City police officer sadly lost his life along with other individuals. And on behalf of the city of Bridgeport and the Bridgeport Police Department, we want to offer our condolences to all of those individuals and the New York City Police Department as well. So, we're doing good in terms of violence and crime statistics. However, we still have a lot of work to do to eradicate gun violence, not only in the city of Bridgeport and the state of Connecticut, but throughout our country. So with that, we'll take a few questions if you have. Ladies first, I'm sorry.
Just wanted to clarify, this group of armed people who came in, were they attempting to rob the Copa? Were they attempting to rob a specific person? If the bar was packed at that time, it seems like a strange plan.
Okay, I'll really pass that over to Detective Holtz to explain.
We really can't answer that question as far as what their plan was, for lack of a better word, with the specifics. Not really going to get into too much evidence on the case in this setting. Members of the press, you'll have access to the affidavit, and I think that some of your questions will be answered when you see that. Victor Colon is a convicted felon. The Bridgeport Police Department was familiar with him through many incidents prior to this homicide and attempted robbery taking place. So, there is a modus operandi attached to this whole case. We'll leave it at that. Like I said, we're not going to go over a lot of evidence or really any evidence here today because this case has to go through the judicial process. So that's the best I can answer right now.
Do you guys have arrest warrants for any other suspects?
We do not at this time.
What cracked the case?
So again, I can't really get into a lot of specifics regarding evidence. In most homicide cases, I'll leave it at this. In 2025, detectives have access to video. They have access to phone records. They have access to forensic science. I think I can generally answer your question in saying that check all of the above were used in this investigation.
There was another shooting around the same time. Was that connected, or is it just sheer chance?
The answer to that is yes, but again, I would refer to the affidavit.
Okay.
And
When you talked about seeing Rosalito's wife on video, are you talking about security video from the Copa? Just where did...
yeah, so there was a lot of surveillance video in this case, including from the Copa, inside and outside. And again, when you talk about cases that do have some legs, that do have information that we can use, you know, there's a lot of video everywhere now, you know, not only surveillance video in businesses and city cameras, but everybody has a Ring doorbell now, you know. And so when you talk about a lot of the older cases, when you go back years and years and years, video wasn't as prevalent. So to the people out there that have family members that have been murdered and they're looking for some answers about their cases, sometimes that's something that hampers the investigation. But the short answer to your question is yes, surveillance video inside the Copa was what I was talking about.
Is that it? So again, I'd like to thank you for coming today, to the press, to the family. Again, our condolences, and on behalf of the Bridgeport Police Department, the City of Bridgeport, and Mayor Ganem, our condolences, and thank you for coming.
Now let's unpack that. First of all, I'd like to give an approving Miyagi to Joselito Calderon, who lost his life trying to help other people during an armed robbery. That goes out to him and his wife. But that approving Miyagi also goes to the hard work and dedication of the police department that stuck by this for years to make sure that justice was served to somebody who did some horrible things and cost a man his life. Now, we don't know all the details of what made him step into action. All we know is there was an armed robbery and he felt like he needed to step up to do something. Unfortunately, that cost him his life, but ultimately now he is a hero for what he has tried to do. And it really is terrible when you hear about people losing their life in such a manner, especially when they did something good. It sounds like he was doing good for the community, sounds like he was a husband and a father and an instructor, and for that, you'll be missed, I am sure, by your community, but this approving Miyagi is for you. This brings us to the question of the day, brought to you by Academy Safe. If you're looking to find martial arts studios that hold higher standards, not just for themselves, but for the community around them, check out martial arts academies that are approved by Academy Safe. They make sure that academies are getting background checks, local and federal. They make sure that they have defibrillators on site. They also make sure that they are doing their due diligence in terms of safe sport and concussion training. Academy Safe, check them out. The question of the day that I have for you out there is, what is the most heroic thing that you yourself have done, or the most heroic thing that you yourself have witnessed in person? And heroics don't have to be the most grandiose stories. Sometimes it's just doing a kind thing for somebody who is in need. In my opinion, that in itself makes you a hero. So what is the most heroic thing that you yourself have done and or witnessed? I look forward to reading your comments in the comment sections below. As always, thank you all for the likes, comments, shares, subscriptions, memberships, and all that crap. I appreciate the hell out of all of you for your continued support. Keep the martial arts legit.
Things just haven't been the same, living strange since my baby joined at